post this shit for Ronnie, just know I'm here for you, brother. Reminiscing on them days when I shed a tear for you, brother. Know the toughest days you've been through are in the rear for you, brother. God moves on his own time, and he made it clear to you, brother. See the finish line. I visualize realities I wanted, then invented mine. It ain't how you start, it's how you finish. Word to the scrimmage line. Luckily, my hustle is my passion. This shit intertwined.
Yo, we are back with another episode of the Coach's Corner podcast, and we got our homie Joe Johnston on with us today. Joe, welcome to the show, man. I'm super stoked to have you here.
What's up, boys? Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm honored.
Yes, sir. Welcome, my man. Of course, already, dude. Like first line of me speaking, Siri's already tapping into the podcast, so this is gonna be a good one. I got Siri in one ear and I got a fucking leaf blower in the other ear, but we're gonna rock out. We're gonna have a party either way.
Rocky's gonna get going soon too.
yeah. We need we'll have him in the background too. Yeah, why not? Right? Hat trick. But yeah, man, stoked to have you here. Let's give a brief intro, man. I know Joe's got a couple different hats that he wears. Joe's a transformational coach on one end, and then also runs a speaking business. But give us the rundown, man. Tell us a little bit about what you do and how you help people.
Yeah, totally, man. So, and thank you boys again for having me in the introduction. Yeah, I mean, you kind of covered it from a professional perspective. Two main sort of passions and two main businesses that I'm building. So one is the transformational coaching business. So working with young adults to help them get aligned to what they're supposed to be doing in life, right? Get the focus and the clarity to execute on achieving their purpose and their passions and their dream lives. And so that's obviously where I'm tapped in with you guys with free 99 leads and the automated coaching engine, which has been absolutely huge, taking my lead gen off my back, and then all the other support that y'all have given me there has been huge. And so that's been super dope to kind of align with my passion of human optimization and personal development and my own journey, and now bringing my program and my framework to others. And then the other is MII Professional Speaking, which is my speaking agency. That's like my baby that I've really been working on for like 2.5, 3 years now. And we're finally starting to see return, right? COVID obviously wiped out a lot of in-person engagements. And so that business took a big hit and made me kind of side hustle longer than I would have liked. But now things are starting to pop, man. I'm sure you guys can relate. Any entrepreneur can relate. It's like, dude, you're working for something for so long. You're putting in the time, you're putting in the hours, and you're seeing very minimal, if no return. And then it starts to pop. And then you start to see, that curve of the hockey stick and things are going up and you're like, let's go, man. Like, this is why I did it. This is what's worth it. And like, dude, I was just reflecting this past week, had a couple of gigs that I was traveling to, and it's like, dude, it's all been fucking worth it. And I don't know if I can swear or not, but it's all been worth it, dude. Like every, putting in the long hours and continuing to put in that time, right? Like it's never over, but it's like, you start to see the fruits of your labor, whether it's in personal development, whether it's in your relationships, whether it's in your business, financially, physically in your body. It's like, dude, putting in that time and putting in that work and never giving up and putting one foot in front of the other, 1 + 1 = 2, right? As Mike P says, it's like, dude, putting in that work every day. And then when you see the fruits of your labor in whatever aspect of your life it is, it's freaking addicting, dude. And it's like, dude, of course, like putting in those long hours and putting in that work is always going to be worth it. If you get the results that you're looking for, which you will, it might not come in the time that you're looking for it, but like, dude, just being at those gigs and like getting paid for it, it's like, it wouldn't have been as sweet if it didn't take this long. It wouldn't have been as sweet if like, dude, I didn't have to work at a corporate job for a year and like literally like hate going into work every day. And the only thing I was looking forward to was like going out at lunch breaks or after work to make cold calls, for potential gigs. And I had this vision of what life could be. It's like, dude, you need that struggle to truly, truly appreciate when you get those things. It's like the dichotomy of life, man. And so, yeah, that's sort of where I'm at now. And again, it's super cool to see the fruits of my labor and we're just getting started. So it's exciting.
Dude, 100%. And it's funny that you even bring that up because there's two things that I can relate with on that. And like, one of them is just a piece of content I saw a little bit earlier today. And the other one is just personal experience. But I've been taking way more time lately to actually dive into like the humble beginnings piece. Because I think as we start to like step into that next level, right, as we start to like break through, we start to kind of forget about those situations that you just explained, right? Like getting off of work, hitting the cold calls, shit like that. Yeah. And like yesterday, my girlfriend found pictures of our first apartment. And like my couch was something I picked up the side of the yard. There's literally like piss stains in it. We literally stapled a white sheet around the couch so that we could use it because we couldn't afford a fucking couch. You know, it's like that shit is shit that I saw the picture and I was like, dude, I have no memory of this anymore. You know, like it's not something I think about because it's 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever. So it feels like it was like, oh yeah, that happened, but I completely forgot. So like to your point, it's like sometimes when you break through, the remembering those times is so important to realize that where you got to today is a huge piece. But then that parlays into the piece of content that I saw today. That was Ed Milet, and it was on TikTok. And he had a selfie video with a sunset in the background. And, you know, Ed's got this fucking mansion on the beach, right, in Cali. And he was like just talking about how, you know, like just don't quit, you know, like you out there, somebody's watching this video and you're this close to quitting, right? You're this close to quitting. And if I had quit, none of this would be possible. And like he pointed back to like the sunset with the view and just talked about how, you know, like push yourself one more fucking day. Don't quit for one more day and something will happen, you know? And that's what he kept saying was like, you can get there, you can get close to quitting, but you can't fucking quit, you know? And like, to your point, it sounds like that's been a piece of your journey as well.
Totally, man. And to your point, I think there's a couple things in there I want to hit on. Is one is like, I think we can all relate to this in our own journeys. Like when you're getting, especially in entrepreneurship, but you're getting into the mindset piece. And at some point or another, something clicks where it's like, okay, I'm just not going to look at the rock anymore. Jay Bigden said to me, Mike, before, like when I first went into the Wake Up Wealthy office, he was like, man, we were on the jet skis the other day and you're like driving along on the jet skis and you see the rock and you're thinking to yourself, man, I don't want to hit the rock. I don't want to hit the rock. But what are you doing? You're staring at the fucking rock. And at some point or another in your mindset journey, you make this switch of like, you know what, dude, I'm just not going to look at the rock anymore. I'm going to look at the million. I'm going to look at where I'm actually trying to go. And then you start to manifest that stuff. Now, that's such an important piece, right? So for myself, it's like, dude, when I first came back, I went home for a couple of weeks. It was super dope in August. But then when I came back, I was like, dude, I was freaking out. I was in scarcity. I was like, fuck, I only have so much money left. It's going to be a year and then I'm going to have to move home. And at some point or another, through hanging out with friends who were living abundantly, I finally made that switch of like, dude, you know what? I'm not going to look at that. And now all I can see is myself getting that dope apartment downtown and making that happen. And so now I'm going to manifest that in my life. Now, that's an important thing to do. But to your point, sometimes we get so dialed in with our mindset that we do forget what it was like in the struggle. We do forget what the beginning was like. We reach such a point of actual abundance in our financials, in our mindset, whatever it is, that we forget what the struggle was like. And so one of the quotes that I love, and I'm going to butcher it here a little bit, but it was like, never lose sight of where you're going, but never forget where you came from. And I was fortunate to grow up in, you know, a really close-knit community that holds a really special place in my heart. Like, you know, I have boys back home that aren't living the life that I live anymore, but like, dude, we still have a group chat. We do an annual Thanksgiving Day softball game. And it's really, really important to me. And I think this should be for anyone to remember where I came from, dude, and to go home. And, you know, I'm going home because I have a gig in New Jersey that I'm driving down to. And so, you know, going home and just like, dude, going to that Barnes and Noble that I used to go to and like even just sitting there for like 5-10 minutes and being like, wow, man, I used to come here and I was freaking out. I didn't know what my path was 3 years ago. And like, look where I'm at now. And so to notice that difference and to notice where we are today is so critically important. And dude, also to the point of quitting, it's like, man, you got to put yourself in a position, and I know you guys can relate to this, where there's just no other option. You know, this is a conversation, Mike A., I had with Brody on our first production call when I joined the Brotherhood. And, you know, I was like, hey, man, I just made the leap full-time into entrepreneurship, quit my job. Like, what advice do you have for me? And he's like, you know, he asked me a couple of questions, and he was like, yeah, man, I mean, it's pretty simple. It's like burn the boats. You know, at this point, it's like, dude, if there's something early in your journey where you have any time in your day where you're not learning, where you're not focusing on getting better, where you're not focusing on making money, on making it happen, like you're wasting time. And so, dude, it's like you have to put yourself into the position is like, take a risk, jump full in. Everyone has to do it at some point. It's going to be rocky starting out, but that's going to force you to go like, dude, I'm never getting a job again. And like, if you're just convicted and like, dude, I'm never getting a job again, I'm never settling in this aspect of my life, and you stay true to that conviction, even when times get tough, Like, dude, you just make quitting not an option. It's like, dude, I'm either going to go for this and I'm going to go to zero, or I'm going to make it. And I can't afford to go to zero. My back's up against the wall, and I'm going to do everything in my power, whether that's working, whether that's, working through the night, whatever it is, I'm going to make this freaking happen and make this become a reality. And like, that conviction is like, dude, you can't not lose. Business is mechanical. If someone else has done it, you can freaking do it if you don't quit and if you never give up and you just have that conviction. When you do, I just truly believe you can't be stopped. You're gonna get to your goal.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and there's something super beautiful that you just kind of like talked about there. It's literally just like no other options, like just having your back against the wall, like, damn, it's time to make some shit happen, like I have to, like there's no other option. And I think honestly, that's one of the biggest misses that, quote unquote entrepreneurs have in their life is they try and like go into it halfway. And I always like kind of refer to it as like I was blessed, like I didn't have shit, so like as soon as I made my first $15, actually it was $13 I made online, I quit my job, swear to God. Yeah. I was like, nope, I'm fucking done. I was like, if I could do it once, I can do it over and over and over again. But it was so easy for me to do at that point because I had nothing, like my rent was like $500 a month and that was pretty much all I had, like I didn't have anything else, so it was very easy for me to be like, well, damn, I could probably make $500 somehow, so dude, like that's one of the biggest things like that I feel like people miss on. But talk about like that mindset, like what do you have to have like in that time period, to like talk about what you just mentioned, that hockey stick, where it's like, man, I'm just going hard as fuck for so long, I'm not seeing anything. How did you know, like, I just have to keep going. One day it's gonna be my time,
Yeah, man, dude, it's tough to hit on one precise thing. I think there's a multitude of different things. And one thing I want to hit on, and this was part of what helped me, is like I've always been into like motivational videos. I actually have a part of my website and our speaking website, which really should be on my coaching website because it's more aligned with that company. But it's just third-party videos, and it's videos that got me through tough times and that were really inspiring to me. And one is a Joe Rogan video. There's a bunch of Joe Rogan videos on there, but he talks about it's like you can be successful too. And it's like, dude, I think it's really important. And this is something, Mike A., you've talked about with our coaching community, to share your stories, because one of the things that Joe Rogan talks about, he's like, dude, when you see this CEO and he's got this dope corner office and he's got this sweet car and he's wearing this nice suit and he's got, the family, he's got it all. It's very hard to imagine that at one point in that dude's life, he was fucked up. Like at one point in life, he was depressed, he was failing, he was, working at, some shitty job, trying to figure it out, whatever it is. But then like you see that and you get around those people and you're like, oh, he's just a fucking person. He's just an individual. He reads books, he watches Netflix, he does similar things on some level, enough of similarities where it's like you see, and this is to your point, Mike P, is like, dude, I was seeing other people doing it. And it was like, dude, there's no way I can't do it, right? There's no way I can't do it if other people are doing it, right? Like, I don't know how long it's going to take. I don't know what it is. And this is like where Wake Up Wealthy, the coaching program where me and Mike are jointly in together, really helped, is like, dude, I went into that office and like, I heard people saying like, yo, I just hit a 10K, 100K month, whatever it is. And I quit my job the next day because my world opened up to this, like, oh, this is freaking possible. And when people are talking about it like it's normal, I need to be around that community more than anything. Again, if other people can do it, I can do it. Now that comes with the condition of, if I'm willing to put in the work, if I'm willing to put in the time. And so I think that was a big thing for me, is seeing other people living a life that I wanted to live. Also knowing within myself, whether it was growing up from football or whatever it is, but that knowing that I would put in the work to make that happen. And then I think the other piece for me is like, I was motivated by two things and still am. It's like, as much as I'm motivated for success and all that it is, I'm also motivated by the Henry David Thoreau quote, which is that most men live lives of quiet desperation. Most men go through their lives just living a life of quiet desperation. They get the corporate job, and they settle. And like, dude, I think like positive momentum is important. Like also settling is like a habit. It's like, dude, if you settle in your job, then you're going to settle in your income. If you settle in your income, then you're going to settle in your relationships. If you're going to settle in your relationships, then you're going to settle in the house or where you live. Like, it's just a habit, dude. And so that, like, as much again as I was like motivated by where I wanted to go with the speaking. Also going into that corporate job, like literally like being like, dude, I can't be here in 2 or 3 years. That pain of working in that job that I hated was as equally as motivated to me as going to where I wanted to go. And there's this other quote. It's like, dude, people are motivated by one of two things, inspiration or desperation. And dude, I've always said, like, you got to put yourself in a position where you get desperate. And so whether, again, that is like working that shitty job and just knowing, like Mike, hey, you had a video about this. It's like, dude, it's important to work jobs and stack cash and also work shitty jobs like for a year or two, because it fucking motivates you and lights a fire under your ass. But dude, I never want to do this again. And I'll sacrifice now for 2, 3, 4 years when I'm young and I can afford to. I don't have a family. I don't have a bunch of overhead. But dude, as quickly as I can, I'm going to leap and get out of this. And I talk about this a lot. Is like, dude, this life is freaking tactical. It is, man. And like, you need to choose, like when you decide to get married, when you decide to buy your house, when you decide to move into that nice place, whatever it is, it's like, dude, don't over leverage yourself too early. If you're pursuing a dream, it's like, dude, you're going to have to eat shit for a little bit. We all do, right? You're going to have to live in that shitty area of town. You're going to have to, eat pasta and sauce for a little bit, like not eat out with friends certain times. It's like, dude, make certain fucking decisions. But if you can delay gratification and put in work for a couple of years, I think I always knew that. I was like, dude, this isn't forever. Listening to Bill Burr, listening to Joe Rogan and their struggles, but then also seeing like, okay, they went through that struggle for a certain amount of time, but now look at the life that they're living was just way more attractive to me of just living this life of this comfortable corporate job. Like that was hell to me. And what they were living, though they had to sacrifice for 3 to 5 years and kind of live below their means, that trade-off made way more sense in my mind than the trade-off of living a life of quiet desperation. And so I think that was the thing that was motivating to me. And like, dude, let's not get it twisted. There were plenty of days and plenty of times and early in my journey and still a little bit now where it's like, dude, I was freaking out. It was like, man, I'm going to fail, whatever it is. But it's like, dude, you take that step back. You hopefully have a healthy community of individuals who can keep you accountable. And you just take a breath and you're like, dude, what else is there to do but just get back to work and keep working towards where you want to go. And I think that's the last point is like, dude, what is the antidote to fear is just massive fucking action and taking massive action every day. And you'll see the results and that compounds and you just keep going from there.
100%. And I think one of the biggest things too with what you just mentioned is the fact that most beginning entrepreneurs, most people that step into the entrepreneurial space, they think that like they are the only ones that are experiencing those types of feelings, right? But the thing that they fail to understand is that whether you're fucking just starting or whether you're Elon Musk, like everybody feels that feeling. I'm sure when Elon has a fucking SpaceX rocket blow up in space or blow up in the air, he's not thinking like, oh yeah, the end is secure and 100% I'm going to get what I want out of this situation. Like the dude is definitely going home and being like, oh shit, like this is kind of sketchy right now. Right. So it's like, I think a lot of people, they turn to victimhood when they're feeling that type of feeling instead of understanding the fact that no matter what level you're at, you're always going to have that sort of feeling inside. That's like, oh shit, like, this is a little sketchy, right? This is like a little scary. And to your point, there's one quote that I heard in the Joe Rogan Naval podcast. I'm not sure if you've heard that episode, but he talks about the Confucius quote that a man has 2 lives, and the second life starts when he realizes that he only has one.
Yeah.
Right. And that quote is fucking so powerful because it's like there's just so many people that don't leave it all on the line. You know what I mean? It's just like they just take life as like as a side gig. You know what I mean? Like not even just their business, like their whole life is like this side gig that they put 10% of energy towards,
Yeah, dude, totally. And I don't talk about this too often and I probably downplay it more than I should, but what really like catalyst my journey and my personal development journey and like starting to go all out was my sophomore year of college. I hit this like fairly bad bout of depression and wasn't like to the point of suicide, but like was just in a lot of mental and emotional pain where it was something that crossed my mind. And I do kind of mark that as the demarcation point of like, there is something about kind of seeing or like falling and being at a very low point in your life where you're sort of like, dude, like, what's the sense in not going all out? Like, what's the sense in not going balls to the wall? Because like, whether it's a near life experience, whether it's something like that, where like it becomes an option and you think about death, but like, there is something about seeing that and like being at rock bottom, right? Like you guys, like having that first apartment and like just living like very, like where you're just like, dude, like there's no, like, I'm already at fucking rock bottom. What do I have to lose? Like, I'm already at zero. Like, yeah, I could maybe go a little lower in the debt, but like, there is something sort of romantic about like, dude, fuck it. Like, I'm just going to go for it. Like, I have nothing to lose and everything to gain. That's really, really beautiful and important to do. And yeah, man, to your point as well, I think another point to that as well is that, like, people are scared to take full accountability and ownership of their lives and everything, dude. And like the good, the bad, and the ugly. Because what I say is, like, when you take ownership of the problem or whatever's going on, you're also taking ownership and accountability of the solution and how you move forward from that. And though that is a very freeing feeling, it's also a very, like, it's a heavy burden to carry. It's like, oh shit. So whatever happens in my life, good, bad, or ugly, is all on me. Like, at first it's like this overwhelming feeling of like, holy crap. That means like, if I don't put in the work and things don't work out, I have no one else to blame. However, it's also a freeing feeling because it's like, yeah, but dude, if you put in the work and you control your life and you're conscious about how you build it and create it, you reap the rewards that you get. And so I think that's another thing, Mike A, that I've noticed is like taking full accountability, ownership, and responsibility for everything in your life, the good, the bad, and the ugly, frees you up to then respond to it and make the necessary changes that you need to get to the place that you want. And like, again, dude, like, you guys can relate to this. Why is showing up to work so exciting? Why is it like just taste so much sweeter? Why is being on that plane on 4 hours of sleep to go to a gig so much more exciting? Because, dude, I fucking built this. Like, this didn't happen without me. There is yeah, that kind of sounds ego like centric, but it's like, dude, there is this fulfilling feeling of creating something, creating income, creating a business, creating impact where there was nothing before, and being like, yeah, man, that was all freaking me. Like, this wouldn't have happened if it, like, the company that you have, the life that you have, wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the sacrifices and the struggles that you guys made. There's few better feelings in the world than that. And particularly when that starts to inspire others, when you start to impact others with that work, it's like, dude, that's fucking it. That's like one of the pinnacles of like feelings in life. And it's amazing, dude.
Yeah, no, 100%. And one thing that you really touched on was the pain, like the pain that not just you went through, not what we went through, but what everybody fucking goes through, like, and like, that's one of the biggest things. I love, like, I don't know the proper word. I'm not very fucking intelligent, but like biographies or, autobiographies, like just stories about other people, because like that's when you hear about these things, and that's when you can make that connection with like, wait a second, they were in the same position that I was in at one point. The only difference is that they're 20 years ahead of me. They're 20 years older than me, so like, if they made it out the mud, then I can make it out the mud too. And that was one of the biggest things for me, like, like in these stages that you're talking about is, just hearing other people's stories, like Phil Knight's Shoe Dog, like all of these like different like Chip Gaines, capital gains by Chip Gaines, like just all of these like just random people who shared their story, and there was one common denominator with every single one of them. It's like they all went through some shit and made it out, and so like that was like kind of the biggest thing for me is just like sitting in that pain on all different levels. I mean, I had it when I got expelled from college. I had it when my fucking car got repoed next door, like all of these different things, like just, put so much pain into my life that, like you were talking about, made me realize like I never want to fucking experience this again. Like I never want this to happen again. I will literally do anything I can to never happen this again, never let this happen again. And you talk about like that kind of like, down in the mud point where you're like, borderline like suicidal. Like, to be honest, like I'm not sure, like 100% certain that I've ever felt that level, but I've been very fucking miserable, very fucking depressed, where, I've thought about the easiest thing would be to just not be living anymore,
Yes.
But, like for me, like I have young siblings and, my mom. And so that always like brings me out of that. It's like, dude, Mike, like, fuck off, dude. Like, you can't even think like that, but at that point, like, to your point, like it's the common denominator, like, and I think that's the biggest thing that people don't realize is like when they're in these situations, they think, why me? Why is this happening to me? you know, why is all this pain like happening to me? And like, if we can shift that to be like you were talking about, this is a low fucking point in my life, no problem, can't go much lower, you know? So like, time to start building myself back up, you know? And like, that's where people, I feel like, miss out. And if they can start like transitioning that energy to be like, man, it's okay, Mike, you know, it's time to make some shit happen, you know? And like, that was the biggest thing for me. Like the last time I got arrested, like literally remember sitting in the jail cell, like just like happy as fuck, you know, because I knew like I was coming out of that bitch fucking 10x better, you know? And like that was, and to be honest, that was only because I'd been there 2 other times and, you know, knew what happened, you know, before, you know, when I came out the other 2 times. But to that point, like when I was in there, I just knew, you know, I was just like, man, it's all good. Like, just whenever they open these doors, like, I'm going to get out there and I'm going to the fucking moon. And to be completely honest, that was like 2020, you know, that this happened, you know, so shit changed very fucking quick after that, you know? But to that point, you know, it's sitting in that pain, you know, and like realizing, like, number one, like accepting it, like you said, you know, but number two, like using it for fucking fuel to take yourself to the next level, you know?
Totally, man. Yeah, 100%, dude. And I don't really know. I mean, it'd be interesting to see, but I don't really know if like you can get to that astronomical success without having those moments, dude, without having that point. And again, whatever that looks like for the individual, I do think it's necessary. I really do, is having that breaking point where you literally just say, man, enough is enough. Like, this is it. I'm making the turning point. And that's like to you as well. It's like, dude, it took that third time, but that was all you needed. That was all you needed to be like, dude, that's it. Like, enough with this bullshit. Like, we are going to make a change. We're going to do whatever it takes to get there. So pain, dude, is a very big motivator. And I think as well, like a big thing, and Mike A., I believe you talked about this on a video, is like, dude, this fucking generation, and I'm a part of this generation, wants everything like that, dude. And to realize that it just simply doesn't work that way. I think that's something as well that I had, and not at all points in my journey, but it was like, dude, look, this isn't going to happen overnight. However, and I think this came a lot from football and having football training in high school and knowing like, dude, just show up every day and you will get your game day. And your game day will be, again, not only that much sweeter because you did the work, but it will be way more exciting and worth it than the work was. Like, and you'll look back. And again, I think this is the addiction of positive momentum, is like when you can set a goal for yourself, put in the work to go achieve it and work towards it, and then achieve it, it starts to become addicting because you're like, oh, what can I do? If I've never made 5K before in a month, I set out this goal to make 5K, I put in the work, and then after a couple months, I hit it. What's to say I can't do 10? What's to say I can't do 20? I can't do 30, 40, 50. Granted, that's just an example of like monetary, but like, dude, it goes in everything. Like, I was just talking about this on a Facebook Live with my buddy. It goes in your relationships. It goes in your fitness goals. It goes in your business goals, your, you know, familial goals, like whatever the heck it is. When you start to see that positive momentum, when you start to see, dude, set out a goal, put in the work that's necessary every day, get closer to it every single day, and then boom, result over time, it becomes addicting. And like this world opens up of like, dude, there's literally, I'm a limitless being. There is nothing I cannot do in my life. And then, yeah, man, the last part I want to hit on as well is like that delayed gratification piece, because again, I think it's really important. In our generation, everyone wants things immediately. And again, we see people on Instagram that have things and we think that they've always had it. You know, we think that they were just born with it. And an example that I use is my buddy down here. His name's Logan Sneed. He's a 5-year brain cancer survivor. He has this like amazing business, dude. He's, 25 years old. He's making crazy money, crushing it in business. One of the nicest people I know, one of my best friends down here. And, he's like really going hard into like going out, meeting girls, dating and all that stuff. And something came up like a month or so ago and we were talking to him. He's like, dude, you don't understand. Like, I didn't fucking go out for 5 years. I didn't do anything. I didn't go on any dates. I just worked. That's all I did. And, now I've gotten myself to a point where I feel comfortable. I have this nice life where I can put time and energy into it. He's like, but what people don't see is like, I made that sacrifice for 5 years so that now at 25 years old, I can live this life. And I think that's just really huge, man. And again, something I try to always stay very close to, though it does become more difficult as you get more and more success. But it's like, dude, I posted it on it's like, dude, 3 years ago, I didn't even know becoming a professional speaker was possible. 2 years, the only thing that kept me from like quitting my job was the fact that I knew this would be possible one day. A year ago, dude, I was actively planning when I could quit my job. And now today, like I just spoke at 2 speaking gigs. I've made more money in a month than I ever have before. Granted, it's not a shit ton, but it's still more. It's like, dude, you need to understand that things take time. That doesn't mean they're impossible, but they're going to take time. And if you can delay gratification, one, you're going to see more success. That's been proven in research and studies. But two, like the life that you can have, if you can master that art of delaying gratification, and the things that you can have are absolutely astronomical to if you're just always chasing the next pleasure and aren't able to delay gratification, stay in on weekends, work late nights, all that stuff for a set period of time to get you to where you want to go.
Yeah, 100%. The delayed gratification piece is huge, man. Like, especially with our generation, our like age, like with social media, stuff like that. Like, to your point, we see, people out there at their best. Social media only shows the best. People aren't normally posting their worst days. The depression, the shit like that. And like that's one of the reasons why I love like those stories. Like catching up on just what other people have been through. I'm just like, holy fuck, like, wow, they're just like everybody else. Like, it's crazy. But to that point, man, like the delayed gratification, like not only like is it one of those things where, you just have to have it in your mind as like, it's going to happen to me one day, my time is coming. But at the same time, like, you gotta like actually be taking the action to get you to that point, and like with those two things in your pocket, man, you're literally bulletproof. It's like I know 1 + 1 is going to equal 2 at some point. When it does, I don't really know, but it's going to happen sometime. And to another thing with the whole delayed gratification thing is a lot of times like we set goals with dates, which I think is amazing. Like we should 100% have goals with dates, but at the same time, like we can't like put ourselves into a pity party if we don't hit those things. And like that's been like one of the biggest things that I've kind of like dove off the deep end into a few different times is like setting like number one, unattainable goals, and like number two, like just like like just like beating myself up over the fact that I didn't hit them, and it's like, dude, like number one, you didn't hit it because, it was a crazy goal. It didn't even make sense. Like it wasn't even doable. But number two, like, like you had like that date in your mind. And like, as it started to get closer, you started to take less action because it seemed less and less real, And so like, that's one of the biggest things is like, like just, any goals that I set, like all this shit here, they're like 90-day goals, quote unquote. But at the same time, like, I'm just going to move it to the next 90 days if I don't hit this one, and like, it's just constantly like bringing yourself into that position where it's like, it's just going to happen. It's going to happen one day or, I don't know when, but it's going to happen. I know it is, but, but to that point, man, like, you were talking about like the gigs and stuff, like just, making that move and, like the most money that you made in a month. And you said, quote unquote, it's not a shit ton, but like that's like one of the biggest things that me and Mike always talked about, like as we were building our shit was, sure, we're very far off of where we want to be, but let's just focus on setting a new level for ourselves next month,
Totally.
and that's where we screw up, is that like life literally needs to be like the stock market, like you have bullish runs, you're going to come down, you're going to find support, and then you're going to bounce right back off that shit and hit another one. But the key is like letting that level of support be that level of support,
And sorry, Joe, but to piggyback off that too, like to your point, Mike, that's why it's like really important that when you're setting goals with a timeline, you're reverse engineering them to day-to-day shit. And then you don't look at the big one that's like far away. You just look at the day-to-day shit and then you're good. You know what I mean? Like the problem is that most people, they set the big goal, like, oh, I want to make $1 million in 12 months. And then they look at, okay, let me reverse engineer that into daily actions. But then they're still looking at the thing that's 12 months away, not the day-to-day shit. So then they're looking and they're like, fuck, I didn't do what I needed to do. I'm not there monetarily. Oh, I'm not even doing the actions now that are going to get me there, It's like
100%. It's like I think Gary Vee talks about this. A concept I like a lot is like macro and micro. And you want to set the macro, and that's the longer term, bigger picture of what you want things to look like. Again, dude, I think this is so applicable to many aspects of life. This is applicable to a relationship, to your family that you want, to the house that you want, like to the financial that you want, the business that you want, whatever the fuck it is that you want, your physical goal. This is the macro where I want to be. I don't know. And you put a timeline on that, or it's just like maybe at the end of the year, 5 years, 10 years. I don't know. This is where I want to be. Fantastic, dude. Now, what you said, Mike, is again, let's reverse engineer what needs to happen on a daily basis to get there. And dude, I think this is what fucks people up a lot is like, everyone wants the macro. Everyone wants the dream. They want all that stuff. Now, do people want to sit down and meditate for 15 minutes every morning? That's a little fucking more difficult. Do people want to make up at 5 a.m. and go to the gym? Not really, and if you can't draw that correlation to cold calls every day at lunch are going to lead to you attaining the macro in a certain amount of time, then you're probably not going to put in the work to do it because you're like, why would I do that? But like understanding, hey, it's great to set a macro, but the macro only happens if the micro is executed on consistently over time every single day to get you closer to that. I think that's such an important concept that, again, a lot of people miss, dude. It's like, yeah, it's great to have that macro, but the macro don't mean shit if you don't have the micro. And another piece as well is like, dude, to your point as well, it's like, yeah, man, dude, this is going to be a big month and I'm fucking pumped about it. I am like, hey, I know in the grand scheme of things and hearing Grant Cardone and Bradley, like, yeah, granted, dude, or seeing some killers, it's like, this isn't a ton of money, but it's a lot of money to me at this point in my journey, And so I'm going to relish in that. I'm going to run the positive protocol on it. I'm going to fucking sink that into my subconscious of this is the new normal. And dude, I think as well as you guys know, it's like, dude, entrepreneurship can be this up and down stock market-y game. And, it's very interesting. I don't want to like trash anyone here, but like, this is where the mindset piece does come in is like, dude, a lot of entrepreneurs or coaches that I meet, they're fucking head cases, dude. Like they'll have a big month and they'll feel great and they'll be on the top of the world. And then the next month they don't, they tie their worth to how much money they do in their productivity in business. They don't look at it objectively and they're freaking out. And it's like, dude, to me as well, it's like looking at it like, okay, speaking, it's a cyclical thing. I know in December and January, probably not going to make that much money from speaking because people are on vacation. They're on holidays. There aren't a lot of speaking gigs. So I need to understand that November is going to be big. October is probably going to be big in the future. February, March, April is going to be big months in the college market particularly. But like, dude, December and January might be a little lower. And I need to understand and be confident again in the fact that, hey, that doesn't define me as an individual, one. But two, dude, it's a down month. No big deal. The market is in session there. You know what I mean? Like it's a cyclical business. I understand that. So where can I put my time and energy in during those months to longer term activities that are going to affect my macro in a productive way, provide asymmetrical returns so that when I do come back, when business does come back, things come back hard and I'm ready for it. And so again, I think that kind of comes back to that tacticality piece. And also like, dude, the importance in business of one, not necessarily like tying your self-worth to how much money you make or the outcome. And two, just like, again, this is something we learned from Brody and the Brotherhood is like, dude, looking at things objectively. Business is mechanical. Dude, I would argue success in all aspects of life, it's mechanical. And just looking at it from an objective perspective, removing your emotion from certain situations, and being like, dude, what worked? What didn't work here? Where did I mess up? Where can I do better in the future? I'm not a terrible person because I tried something and it didn't work. I just thought something. I had a hypothesis. I tested it. It didn't work. Fantastic, dude. Let's review the hypothesis and then let's go back and make another one and test that and iterate until we succeed. It's just such an important skill set to have. And again, if you have it and you're willing to never give up and never quit and do whatever it takes to make your dreams become a reality, they freaking will. Maybe not in the time that you thought that they would, but they will if you have that skill set and if you can put in the work and the time and the energy. And again, I can't stress the emphasis enough of having people ahead of you up your ladder, right? Like seeing you guys and seeing where you guys are at. And then also hearing no, like, dude, 2 years ago, like Mike P was like, dude, I was in a jail cell. Or like hearing like, dude, a couple years ago, like Mike A, like you were flipping burgers. It's like, okay, word, dude, they're just people. They're just individuals who have fucking crazy work ethics. They iterated to success. Again, if they can do it, I can do it. I'm a couple years behind their journey, but if I put in the work, I can ultimately get to a level of success and live a life that I aspire because I see someone who's done it, who's just a couple years ahead of me. One, let me fucking see that it's possible through them. And then two, let me get myself as close as fucking possible to them so that I can learn from them, so that my brain can start rewiring itself. I can get those mirror neurons going. And so that, dude, I can just fucking get around that. And inevitably I will manifest that success in my own life.
Yeah, no, that's fire, man. There's two things you talked about there that are huge. Number one, the macro micro game, like the macro micro thing, man. Like that shit is so fire to me, because like people don't, people hear those words, they might not understand it, but if you just dumb it down into like, look at like the sport of football, like these guys practice Monday through Friday, and then on Sunday they show up and play the game, and like, Monday's practice is probably reviewing film, whatever. But at the end of the day, like it's all just like micro, actions to get you to that macro like thing, that macro event. And like that's like one of the biggest things that I think that people don't really, put two and two together with, is like, hey, like life, business, like success, it's just like a game. Like how did you prep for those games when you were in high school? You showed up to practice every day, you trained in the off season, you were putting in the work every fucking day. And like most of us didn't get to this point until we were in high school, if we did play high school sports. But like, like I never played football because of this. It's kind of funny because like, it took me out of all the other sports, because like these motherfuckers were just training every day. I'm like, dude, like I'm trying to play other shit, like I was on the golf team, like I was trying to do other shit. But that was like the biggest thing for me. But, to that point as well, like, it's just about showing up every single day, to get the work in for the end result, and like, what we were just talking about as far as like setting goals and stuff like that, like it's literally reverse engineering, like the big thing. And like you can even dumb it down into like the football game itself, like these guys are literally just trying to get first downs so they can score a touchdown, like I mean, sure, there might be a Hail Mary every now and then, but at the end of the day, like, it's based around, just moving the chains, like literally that term.
Totally, man. And I think as well as the understanding, and this kind of comes back to what we were talking earlier about like taking accountability and like consciously building your life, is like, okay, so you have this macro that's set up. Maybe it's a monetary goal, it's a financial goal, it's a familial goal, whatever the fuck it is for you, your macro. Now reverse engineer that down into your micro, but also if you can, dude, I could be working at a sales job right now at a corporation and like I could hit my financial goal and eventually all my goals, but that's not the micro that I want. I would be miserable. That would get me to my macro, but I would be miserable in the micro getting there. And so it's also like thinking about purpose. It's like, yo, you're a transformational life coach, you do speaking. Ultimately, those are just two mediums that I use because I like them and I prefer them to fulfill my purpose of helping others optimize their lives and get to their dream lives and all that stuff. There are a fucking million mediums that I could go in. I could start a podcast. I could write a book. I could write blogs. Like, dude, you could do a million things to get you to your macro. Understand that, set out the macro, and then reverse engineer that into the micro, and find a micro that you're going to enjoy. Find a process that you're going to enjoy. Because if you don't, dude, it's like, it doesn't even sometimes matter so much what the macro is if you're not enjoying the micro of getting there. Right. And so I think that's a big thing as well. It's like, man, as much as I love speaking and like being on the road, and it came at a perfect time, it got me out of Austin, it got me on the road, that was dope. Dude, I almost enjoy fucking being back in town here on a Monday, sitting in a room, making cold calls, hopping on sales calls, doing systems work, as much as I enjoy the micro to get me to my macro. And that's what makes this journey and this thing so beautiful. And I think that's the beautiful thing about entrepreneurship and working for yourself, is you do have that freedom. Be like, look, I need to make money. I need to impact people, but like, fucking, how do I want to do that? And again, in today's day and age, dude, it is very easy to achieve those things, to have big impact, to make a lot of money, to have the life that you want, doing pretty much anything. This is the Gary Vee thing. It's like, dude, if you want to, I don't know, like trade business, like whatever it is, dude, you can monetize a lot of things today and make a living off of it because of the internet and the day and age that we live in, that like, there's just no excuse not to be. So I guess my final point there is like, dude, yeah, have that macro set out, but also understand that the micro and the things that you determine and utilize to get there, one, it doesn't have to be the normal path. And like, two, make sure it's something that you love, and make sure it's something that's true to you. And it's mediums to get there, mediums to have your impact, mediums to hit your macro that align with you. Because when you do, dude, it doesn't feel like work. You know, it's like, dude, this is a medium for me. Like, this is work. This is a medium for me to get my message and live aligned with my purpose. Like, dude, it's fucking amazing. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think that's another important point with the macro micro discussion.
Yeah, for sure. And I know we're coming close on time, so we'll wrap it up. But one of the big things that's tied into all of that is like finding people that have what you want, and simply just like you were talking about, surrounding yourself with them, you know, doing the shit that they do, you know, like, man, I always tell people, like, I'm no fucking super genius, man. Like, all this shit that I do, like all this shit that I know, most of it's from YouTube and it was free, you know? So like that's the thing, is like, you know, like if we can just like focus on that too, you know, sure, like define that macro, reverse engineer it into the micro, but like attach it to somebody or a group of people that you can follow and surround yourself with. Because like that was honestly like the biggest thing for me too, is like, you know, seeing people that had it, like you were talking about, like, damn, you know, if they could do it, I can fucking do it, you know? And I was literally watching the UFC fights the other night, and I can't remember which dude it was, but it was like his debut fight. He knocked a dude out in like, you know, 30 seconds. And he was like, hey, everybody watching this, like, I'm talking to you, like, you watching this, like, you can fucking do it. And I was like, holy shit, man, you know, like, here it is, somebody on the main stage saying it, you know, like, of course I know that, but you know, like to the world, you know, the people watching that, like, do they actually like understand what the fuck that means, you know? But yeah, man, great conversation overall. Mike, if you got any last thoughts, feel free to dump them in. But man, I feel like we say this every single week. We need to like do these on like Sunday or something when nobody's got shit going on, you know?
Yeah. Seriously, 100%. Yeah, Joe, tell them where they can find you so that we can make sure to get your links all set up. But yeah, man, it was a dope conversation. So let the people know where they can find you.
Heck yeah. Yeah. Thank you, boys. Again, I'm honored to be here, and you guys have inspired me and helped me in more ways than you would know. So again, thank you so much for asking me to be on. And yeah, we could go for hours, man. It's crazy. Like, I love this stuff, and I know you guys do as well. It's like we could jam for hours. So yeah, at the Joe Johnston on Instagram. It is Johnston with a T, JOHNSTON, at the Joe Johnston. That's where all my stuff's at. I'm pretty active on there. And both of my companies, I believe, are linked on there, their pages, Instagram pages. But yeah, reach out on there, DM me. Always love connecting with like-minded individuals, whether you're ahead of me in my journey, behind, on quote unquote, on some level. You know, always like to talk with people who are just looking to get better and improve their lives. And yeah, thank you, boys, again. I wish we could stay for longer, but super grateful for this podcast, this platform, this ability to impact, and also all the work that you guys are doing. And yeah, man, keep grinding, one foot in front of the other. As Mike P says, 1 + 1 = 2. Like, it's gonna fucking come. Just keep putting one foot in front of the other, putting in that work on the micro, and that macro will manifest in due time.
Boom.
Yes, sir. 100% grateful for you, bro. Let's make it happen. Let's get it.
Yeah. I'm on the expensive mic today. I might sound a little different. Hey, I wrote this shit for Ronnie. Just know I'm here for you, brother. Reminiscing on them days when I shed a tear for you, brother. Know the toughest days you've been through are in the rear for you, brother. God moves on his own time, and he made it clear to you, brother. See the finish line. I visualize realities I wanted, then invented mine. It ain't how you start, it's how you finish. Word to the scrimmage line.